Welcome everybody to this week's episode of Last Call Gaming, and on today's episode, we're going to take a look at how Capcom may have revealed that Resident Evil is joining the online space with the mode that they're doing with the 4v1. So join us as we take a closer look at that. But like Walking Dead, has Telltale seen a rise from the grave? It looks like the franchise may just not be out of the loop as we thought it might be. We're going to take a closer look and discussion at that. But more importantly, guys, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch Lite. So make sure that you pay attention to the end of this episode so you can find out how you can win it. But as always, guys, there's all that and more. So if you want to hang out, grab yourself a beer and let's talk games. Welcome gamers to this week's episode of Last Call Gaming. We are on episode 19. My name is Craig Prowse, and joining me is the man that drinks more Pacifico than Mexico, Mandra Montemay.
I think the only thing these are really good for right now, besides drinking, is holding down this godforsaken notebook that keeps going up, and it annoys me more than anything.
This ceiling fan causes nothing but chaos because I have to use the bottle opener now just to keep this flat down. I'm flopping over here. So Andrew, we are here to talk about Capcom, and the story that's coming out with their new Resident Evil Project Resistance. Now, you're kind of more of the residential Resident Evil fan, as it were, around these parts. So talk to me a little bit about what happened, what's the fuss, what's going on with this?
Sure, we'll get into the mixer with it. So, to start, this could be related to something we had talked about a few weeks ago where Capcom was sending out emails to some of their Resident Evil fans, people who are their subscribers, to their website, saying come and try a new game that everyone thought was going to be Resident Evil 3, which is more than likely in the mix. But what's been talked about now from a floor map that actually leaked first and then they put up a teaser website is a game called Resident Evil Resistance. Now, we don't quite know what it is yet because they're not talking about it until September 9th. Per the website, it says that, plus the other information.
Which is right around the corner.
It is going to have a huge presence at the Tokyo Game Show because in this map, which I'm sure we'll put up an image or something for that, it's a huge chunk of that square. It's almost...
Yeah, you showed me it. It's the beefiest part of that map, of that floor layout.
Yeah, for that whole floor layout. And so what it is, the rumor is that it is going to be online centric. Good. What a lot of people are hoping for is Resident Evil Outbreak, which is a classic Resident Evil game. I think it came out in 2003 and then the other one was in like 2004. Very online game. You play it with other people, but you're not bursting people, and it's not like Resident Evil 5 or 6 that we have where it's just two people versus all these zombies against a timer trying to survive as long as you can or a counter. You're actually trying to survive scenarios is what it is. In Outbreak, people had their own abilities. If you're the plumber, you could put things together. If you're the cop, he came with a gun. There's like a medical student who could heal people. But either way, this Resident Evil Resistance is all that's really known about it so far is that it is an online game. It's a new Resident Evil, and the rumor is that it's 4v1. And what I'm hoping that means isn't an asymmetrical multiplayer game like Evolve, Friday the 13th, Predator, because I don't know if it could... none of those games have really taken off. Predator's not out yet, so we can't count that. Friday the 13th didn't take off. We saw what happened with Evolve, another game that did not take off. So I hope they're not chasing that trend, and I don't know if Resident Evil could really be that trend, and I'm personally not a fan of those asymmetrical multiplayers. I don't know if you played any of them.
Yeah, I played Friday the 13th, and I really enjoyed it. I think there's an audience for it out there. So, Andrew showed me some of the gameplay of what Resident Evil Outbreak looked like, and the idea, if that's what this new Project Resistance is something I'm very keen on playing, trying out, seeing what they do with it, because, if I'm not mistaken, you're saying that was off the PS2?
Yeah, it's off of the PS2, and you could actually play it online with other people, but this was before voice chat was really anything.
Right.
It's before I'm pretty sure it's before Xbox Live, or kind of around the same time.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think it would probably have to be.
It was like base internet infrastructure, because the PS2 all you had was that little thing back there, but
network
adapter. Yeah, the little network adapter. So I'm hoping that the 4v1 stands for like four people in one scenario.
Yeah.
Which is what Outbreak was.
And yeah, because reading from what I could gather on it, because I never played Resident Evil Outbreak, the scenario aspect is the coolest part of it. It's essentially these characters have different intros into the game. You can kind of experiment. But you were saying they have certain ways out. There's different ways to complete the mission, and each character brings a different trait, different abilities. Some may be able to carry more weapons or more ammo or more items. So that looks really cool, and I like what Adrian's saying. If this sticks to a model that revolves around players versus environment versus players versus one juggernaut type character or something along those lines, because again, like he said, there's a couple games out there that they're doing okay, but nothing I think has excelled. And that, that's not to say for Predator, which comes out I think maybe next year, and that's exclusively for the PlayStation, where this game will be across all platforms, which a game like this I think deserves to be. But let's talk more to what Capcom is on a hot streak, so
yeah,
this looks like it could be a very interesting move for Capcom to move into a new space with a familiar IP that everyone knows, which Resident Evil with Resident Evil 2 just took off and did fantastic.
Right, and I mean, there was also leaked images, because if you're going to put something on YouTube, there are images that can show up as far as thumbnails, and it has to be there. And these people kind of, were able to get them. And it looks like it's good, and it kind of looks almost like that situation. And there's nothing really out there, I don't think, as far as I know, that's kind of, I guess the way people describe it is like Left 4 Dead.
That's the biggest thing I keep hearing.
Which is almost what Resident Evil Outbreak was, except for it was with the classic fixed angles and stuff like that of Resident Evil. If they were to make a modern Resident Evil, maybe without those angles, I would personally take it with the angles, as long as I can play with other people online, because Outbreak was just so much ahead of its time, and I felt like that's the reason it kind of really didn't take off, because I think that's an amazing concept. Just it's very item scarcity too, because just because I pick up a gun and I pick up a weapon doesn't mean Craig gets the same thing.
Right.
Me and him, I would have to pass him the ammo. If he wants to be a dickhead and trade, he could pick up the shotgun rounds. I have the shotgun. I have no ammo.
Rationing out things, survival actually takes,
precedence.
Takes precedence is in full effect. Now, you were saying that there was a website that was popping up, white screen, showing that it's okay. So this is a good marker that kind of shows that it is. I mean, if history is an indication, with Resident Evil 2 did the same thing, this shows that it's more than likely 99% accurate.
Right. What he's referring to is, if you go to ResidentEvilOutbreak.com, it's just an all-white page that says OK in the top left corner, which is nothing to gawk at. I mean, it's nothing special. It doesn't mean anything. Right, except for Resident Evil Remake 2.com, which is the official, or it's Resident Evil 2.com, which is the official website for Resident Evil 2 Remake, did the exact same thing in 2017. It was an updated page that was all white, and it just said OK in the upper left corner. So I think Resident Evil Resistance may just be a working title as a way to surprise fans on the 9th. But either way, they say for sure they're showing it on the 9th. You'll get a teaser trailer. TGS is the following week. I think it's the 11th through the 15th. They already have a schedule on there that they're showing.
Yeah, they got 2 days scheduled. The 12th and the 14th will be actual demo gameplay that you actually get to witness. But I like the title. I mean, would you change the title Project Resistance? I mean, maybe take out Project or something, but I like the title of Resistance.
I wouldn't
team resisting, the elements of...
I wouldn't care. Like, say, if it takes the Outbreak game, if it takes the heart of what Outbreak is, call it whatever you want to. So that's what I'm really excited for. I know a lot of people are out there. If you go to, I was even reading through news, and that's something a lot of people are hoping for is Outbreak, because again, that's a game that didn't get its fair shake because there was no big infrastructure. There wasn't a party system at the time.
Let me throw something at you. If they were to pepper in a mode, right? That game that you want is happening, but there's a mode where 4 people fight
asymmetrical
Mr. X or something like that, like kind of like a Friday the 13th. Why not put 2 in it? I mean, how much harder could that be?
That is exactly what I think would be good.
That'd be awesome.
Because the original Outbreak, I don't think had too many scenarios. I think there's like 6 scenarios, 7 scenarios, or something like that. Maybe even 5. But it's fun because you're playing with different people, different characters, taking these different routes and doing these different things. You might even come into a different cutscene depending on who you are. That you can do something like that, and then create this online sort of that multiplayer mode where it's player versus player versus the player versus the environment.
Yeah, so I think as long as we get the Outbreak game essentially at its core, and then add on what everyone else is talking about, maybe the 4 actual V1.
I would be happy with that. I would be perfect with that. why not? That would, if anything, because obviously I don't think it would have a single player story that you could follow or whatever without having to play with these other people. That would make me feel like it's a more complete package.
Would that package start at $60, or do you think something along those lines?
If it came with
$40?
both, I would say $60. If it was just
one or the other,
I would pay $60 for Outbreak regardless.
Nice.
Not a remaster or a remake, but if it was this new game, just
something
completely new thing, the same heart, the same everything, I would probably pay the 64.
I like that.
At least 40.
So the gameplay comes out in the TGS next week, guys. So I'm sure by the time our next episode comes on, we will have plenty more to talk about it, because I know Andrew's been dying to look at it. So that is coming up right around the corner, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But that is it for that, unless there was any other hidden notes.
No, I think that was kind of the big thing that I had. I think I got everything in.
Perfect. So let's move on to the Telltale game story, guys. Now, if you remember back in 2018, Telltale Games finally closed its doors. Now, this was a company that was founded back in October 2004, and surprisingly enough, because I kind of forgot this information as time went by, it was opened by LucasArts, which, if you're unfamiliar with LucasArts, that is the guys who do all the Star Wars, the Lucasfilm stuff. So that is the guys who brought
another shuttered studio.
Yeah. So in 2018, the doors closed, and it was mainly because they kind of bit off more than they can chew, because at one point in time, Telltale Games was in a very award-decorated company that was just dominating, and they kind of hit financial trouble because they were kind of licensing out all these different properties with all these games they were making. But so the one thing I want to make sure is clear: Telltale Games is not coming back in the way you would think of it. It was two guys, Jamie Attile, Ottille, and Brian Waddell, who have purchased the IP. So they now own the name Telltale Games, and they're going to stick with the narrative-driven story games that Telltale provided.
I personally think that they could. It doesn't bug me that they didn't change the name, and I know a lot of people say, "Oh, they should have kept the name." It's good they kept the name because Telltale's associated. It's
a brand
associated with that kind of game. But Telltale is also associated with it's a Telltale game. It's jank. It's gonna take forever to release. Lots of weird animations and not very beautiful to look at.
So if anyone's unfamiliar with what the Telltale game kind of model is, essentially what it is they take on different... What got them famous essentially was Walking Dead. So Walking Dead...
That's what put them on the map.
They developed it, and hugely on the map. So they developed this game, and they're the guys that kind of define this episodic release, which is why a couple episodes back, me and you kind of had a discussion on Final Fantasy VII, what an episodic release should be.
But very different ideas of episodic.
I base it kind of more on the Telltale one. So what they do is they take probably a 4 to 5 episode game for, like, let's say chapter 1, episode 1, and that would break out to episode 1 would release, and then 2 to 3 months later, to 4 months later, to 5 months later, to 6 months later, 2 would come out, and then the next one would come out. So you would you would purchase a $60 game up front, and then you would just play the chapters as they release.
I don't think they were 60, they were always like 30, 40?
Well, I mean, eventually, I'm talking about early release, because later on, they dropped down in price, and then later on, you could just buy chapter by chapter. So if you went to, like, GameStop, like I did, and bought the Guardians of the Galaxy one, you bought the full game. Right. And then what it would do is it would automatically install the next chapters as they download it. But later on, you could go on, like, I think Game Pass. You could download chapter 1 of Minecraft and do that. So that's how the game kind of played out, and it's kind of these, point A to point B with some choices in the middle that would kind of choose your narrative of how you did it.
Almost click and point without the click and point.
It was a Goosebumps choose your own adventure, essentially, kind of game.
And they were good.
They were good. And
some
they
of them
off great. So I'm going to rattle off a couple of things that they were done, and then we'll get more into the situation that they're in. So what Telltale was officially associated with was they started off with Texas Hold'em, Bones, CSI, Sam and Max, Wallace and Gromit, Tales of Monkey Island, Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, Law and Order, Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us, Tales from the Borderlands, Game of Thrones, Minecraft, Batman, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, if you're hearing these names, you're realizing that there's no owned IP for that. Those are all things that are owned by the other guys.
Other companies.
Yeah, I don't think they owned any of that, and that was kind of what got them into trouble.
Yeah, that was kind of a big part of their thing, is they were just licensing things out left and right. Like, how expensive, I'm sure, was it? Especially because at the time, that's when Walking Dead was bigger than what it is now.
Yeah, I think they put more Walking Dead fans on the map. They did for me. I didn't care for the show. Love the games.
Yeah, so there's that. Then Game of Thrones, I'm sure, was crazy expensive. And then Stranger Things, which is another hot commodity, I'm sure was crazy expensive.
Yeah, because they were actually, so when they closed down in 2018, they were in the process of making, at least from what I was able to gather, 3 different things. They were making Wolf Among Us Season 2, they were making Game of Thrones Season 2, and they were developing Stranger Things. So that was the next hot one where you're like, man, Telltale is getting all these badass properties, Batman, Guardians of the Galaxy, Minecraft, Game of Thrones, but they're not profiting 100% at that because they're paying to make all these games, which kind of
let's get into that as far as what we think the problems were, and that is one of their biggest problems is the crazy licenses. But not only are they licensing out so many games, they're doing these and announcing new games when some of the other ones weren't even finished.
Yeah, you'd be halfway into. I remember being in the middle of Batman and hearing that I don't remember which one came first. I think it was Game of Thrones was coming after. And you're hearing that this game's coming out, and you're like, well, I'm not even done playing this one.
Not even that you're not done. They maybe only had up until episode 3 with no release date for episode 4, episode 5, episode 6, or anything beyond that. And that was kind of the bigger underlying problem, too. And that might be nice for some people. I know you have a different opinion of, I'm going to beat this episode, and then 2 months down the road, that's when I'll play the other one. I would forget that the game even fucking existed by then until the game, and now I'm like, oh, okay, now I'll play this. Thank God they have, that's specifically why they have the flashbacks on there, is because of how long it took to put that content out.
The other thing I think we forgot to note, which is kind of worth mentioning, is they were actually in the middle of a game. So 3 games got canceled that were in development, but a game was halfway out. Walking Dead, the final season, actually canceled halfway through it. And then, was it, who picked up I forget who picked up the second, it wasn't Polygon, but, it was LCG Entertainment. I have that name written down. They came back and actually are finishing the last 2 of the chapters. So it's an interesting thing that, like, somebody actually, there's enough support for this type of game that people are trying to keep this alive, right? They're keeping the last one dead. Someone's out buying this, and we're trying to keep it alive. So the heart's there, I think. I mean, do you think it can stand on its own 2 legs?
I mean, it can as long as they do things right. I mean, they already said... How do you fix it? I would do some of the things they're saying doing, like keeping it small at first.
Yeah, that's one big thing they
really
keep saying.
Buckle down, choose the properties you're going to work with, create a roadmap that makes sense, and stop trying to take on every little fucking thing that comes your way as you're moving along. That, I would say, the biggest thing, because then you can focus on making a good, well-polished game that people look forward to, and not just like, kind of whatever, half-assing their way through, because the game, again, that was another big issue with their games, is they ran extremely jank. They're not very pretty at all.
Yeah.
And not that I need that for the game to be fun or for the game to be good, because I love The Walking Dead Season 1. It's one of my favorites. That game was absolutely great. But after a while, you're just like, especially when there's lulls in conversation, and then the story maybe isn't really picking up where it should, and the dialogue's lacking. So when you're not delivering at your full force and it's not great, that's something to pick apart on its own. And now you're picking apart all the other things, like the game runs like shit, it looks like shit. I had a lot of problems with the games, like crashing on me, locking up and freezing, or even, I remember there was one specifically that pissed me off. I think it was The Walking Dead. It was the 500 Days.
Yeah,
and I don't know,
like the 3 episoder, I think.
Yeah, and I think that came out between 1 and 2, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
And there was one section where you're supposed to peek over a car just to kind of see where these people are, and then you duck back down. If you stay out too long, they shoot you in the head. I would look up, but the game would just freeze and get stuck every fucking time, and I kept getting shot in the head. And I tried it, and other people getting stuck online. I had to uninstall the game and reinstall it just to do that one chapter.
You should not have to do. What bothered me a lot, which Telltale I think started off in a very strong state, again, because me and Andrew are pretty big metagamers. We like going after gamer score. The original games they had, like the Sam & Max's, because I played the Jurassic Park, I played the Back to the Future. What they would do is when you played the game, to get all the achievements, you had to play it like a game. There's missable achievements. You had to go talk to certain people. You had to do certain puzzles. You had to open up certain dialogue. So on those other games, if you miss something, it had a replayability. You could go back, play the game again, and go, okay, well, what did I do differently that would net me the achievement, or just experience the rest of the game? What they turned into was kind of a hold your hand. As long as you play the game, you knocked out 1,000 points. And that kind of just, for me, and the game was still good because I appreciate all the Telltale games. But to just handheld and give you 1,000 points was one thing that always rubbed me the wrong way in their later games.
So I think that's just for you then, because for me, I specifically...
Oh, you love that. You're begging for those games.
Well,
you needed a quick style.
When I have games like Dark Souls and Sekiro and all these other, Final Fantasies, all these other really long games where I have to go out of my way to do these things, provided I want to, I enjoy some of those. Like I did Michonne the other day after coming off of Doom and Guacamelee. I'm missing like one achievement in Guacamelee, and I went and did everything else because I had so much fun in the game.
You're at 900 something?
It's like 920 out of it. I'm not going to go back and do it.
Oh, he's doing it.
But it was nice just to pop in the Walking Dead Michonne and just hammer it out like that.
And I think that's what happened. People got comfortable with that, but then it turned into all their games, right? I mean, it's fine if that's 1, 2, 3, but if 9 games are going to be, if that's what they're going to be known for doing a game, it's just, I like the choice.
That's what I
like
look forward
going back and switching it. And
I look for the one and done and just continue the story. I don't look to go back and play. I'll go back and I'll read like what the options are.
But why
like
not challenge you, though? Because like even if you're playing the new, when you get to the new Walking Dead, the final season, there's missable achievements. Like it's not just one that you have to play or the mission. You don't just play through it and get them all. There's puzzles you have to collect. There's dialogue you have to do. So they started to get, and that's what I loved. They started to get back into that, and that's where they finally fell. And I was like, damn, because I'm actually replaying I'm on chapter 3 of The Walking Dead, the final season, because 4 came out. So you were playing the old ones. I started playing that one because you reminded me that was even there, though. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I should probably go back.
I wonder if that's something they should even do, is instead of making it 6 episodes when they keep it small, like the Michonne one, I felt like it was perfect. It took me 3 hours to do the 3 episodes. I didn't feel like I was waiting for anything else, and there wasn't a lull in the story like you can find with some of the longer episodes where stuff's just kind of dragging on, especially if you don't care about a section or anything like that. And so that was like, it was perfect for me.
Well, it's interesting because the way he wants to talk about like episodic adventures is he kind of compared them to like Netflix, and he's like, well, people like to binge or not binge on their things, so I'm curious of how they're going to do that, because if they just did a Michonne kind of style where the game comes out and it's 3 parts, and because like you said, if he wants to stick to being small, then do a small game and start with a couple of 3 episodic bangers over the course of maybe 3 months, 1 a month, or stick to 3 within 4.5, 5 weeks or something like that.
Right. No, I think it would have to be sooner. I think it would have to be like an episode a week.
Because they have to cure that
problem.
I think they should. The 2-3 month thing did not work.
Yeah, I personally, I hated it, and by then, people forget that it's coming out. Like, it's not on the tip of your tongue anymore. Whereas it should be like a show. Like, oh man, I can't wait for that new episode next week.
Yeah.
To note though, they are the Telltale that is coming back does not it's got a couple of the original people who actually work there, but it's by no means they're not rebuilding the staff. Yeah, it's not rebuilding the old staff. They said they've offered the staff freelancing jobs as far as to start, and then maybe that could lead to a full-time position,
which I like. It's better than nothing.
I think that it could be good. It sounds maybe kind of scummy, but provided they do it right, maybe that could lead more into, okay, they're offering that to say, hey, you know what, after how badly the staff got treated last time, a lot of them didn't get paid out. There's like that whole debacle over money and absolutely everything that happened. You'd be scared to come back to a company like that. So
it's not the same company.
As a freelancer, I'm not locked in.
Right.
I could come in, test waters, make sure everything's good.
Continue to look for other work.
Yeah, continue to look for other work. If I want to be here and they really changed their attitude, everything's good, everything's great, they're fulfilling their promises, then, make that my home, and why not commit? So
yeah, because I like that a lot. I like that these guys are, because that's the thing. These guys are like, oh, well, because what was the quote that a lot of people said? Like, oh, they should pay the debt of what Telltale did. It's like, this is not the same guys. Like, a lot of those guys, I don't know if they were on the board of directors, a lot of like the higher ups, they're not involved in this at all, outside of a few questions that these guys had. So the fact that they're taking on this old staff is fantastic. The fact that the staff now gets to continue to look for work while they continue to build a resume, building games,
provided they're treated correctly.
I think is good, and there's not much more you can ask for. So Andrew, the fact that Telltale Games is back, are you looking forward to it? And
I was about to ask you the same question: thumbs up or thumb down?
And do you think it's a genre that we need right now in this genre, in this world full of MMO, action RPG, PUBGs, Fortnites? I mean, can Telltale stand up to things like that?
Provided the license is correct. Well, one, I'm glad that they're back. Oh, I'm glad something like that is back. But it's also going to depend on the license. I was looking forward to The Wolf Among Us Season 2. I was looking forward to the next season of Batman so they can continue those. I mean, The Walking Dead has to end sometime, just like the TV show,
Yeah,
just like the comics just ended recently. So that's fine for me. I mean, they could even do a spin-off in that universe, or try their hand at something different, come up with something original.
I think that's what they need to do. They need to make original IP.
Either that, or take another IP that is something like.
What would you like to see?
Do you have anything in mind?
I was thinking something X-Men.
I was about to say X-Men, yeah.
I've been thinking X-Men would be a pretty badass storyline. You get to see something with like a Magneto, Sabretooth, a Wolverine, something like that.
I think that'd be cool. I was going to say something you can take a lot of liberties with. Yeah. And the X-Men universe is because, you could maybe make somebody a villain, make somebody a hero that wasn't before, something like that.
See what happens with Xavier when he picks Cerebro to do this or Cerebro to do that.
Yeah, I think that would actually be, if I had to think of anything, that would probably be my top.
Are the Walking Dead your only experience with that, or have you played any of the older ones or new ones?
No, I played The Wolf Among Us.
Okay, which is awesome. I really think if you guys haven't played it, I would say Tales of the Borderlands.
Actually, I played the Game of Thrones ones too, and this was before I was into the show.
Oh man,
that's what got me into the show. Actually,
Ramsay Bolton skins this person.
Well, it was two things that got me into that show was the gold scene. Mm-hmm. And in that game, after I played it, when they introduced Ramsay Bolton and like what kind of character he was, I was like, oh man, that's really fucking cool. And then I started watching the show after that. And then I fell off and then got back into it. But that's another story, another place.
So guys, what do you think of Telltale games? Do they belong in our environment of games? Can they hold up to the games that they have to stand competitive against? How do they survive? What should they do to keep their business model alive? Because it is... it's questionable, right? Because it's a business that somewhat failed, and I think that it has a lot of potential to thrive, but we will see, because it's been bought out, but I don't think there's any immediate move for anything in production yet. So
no, they said they're kind of taking it slow, but I'm interested in what other IPs out there that maybe you guys would
because I think X-Men, we think X-Men would be a cool one. What do you think would be a cool Telltale game? So that is it for our two stories, Andrew. We are cruising quite nicely to this episode. So let's move in to a riff, a raff, a tit, a tat.
I'll let you start.
Okay, so one that caught my eye, guys, because I'm probably one of the biggest fans of these games, is there was a deal made that Virgin did with Disney back in the day with on Sega and Super Nintendo with Lion King and Aladdin. Now, those two games are now coming to modern console. Now, when I originally read the article, it was a Switch article, so I thought they were originally coming just to Switch. But after reading an IGN article, I saw that at least the picture showed Xbox, PS4, and Switch. Now, this is awesome because a few of the things that they were bringing to it is a watchable mode. So you can actually just watch how the level's played to see how you beat it if you're stuck on anything.
Really? I saw some of the news, but I didn't see that.
They have a soundtrack mode where you can go and unlock all the stuff and you can hear all the music, which was awesome. And it also plays every version of the game.
I saw that. What is that? So that's like if it's the Game Boy version on there, you can play the Game Boy version.
Oh God, do I have it pulled out right here? It might be actually in my Sega Game Gear. Oh God, it fell. So I actually have Aladdin and Lion King on my Sega Game Gear. You get to play those ones. You get to play the Sega Genesis. You get to play the Master version. You get to play the Game Boy version. You get to play the Super Nintendo version. So they're giving you all of them.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I don't know why you'd want to, but...
Why not? I never beaten the Sega Game Gear one. I would
probably
like
runs
to.
like shit.
No, Sega Game Gear.
But either way, definitely worth the value. They didn't have to do it, and the fact that they did is pretty cool.
Did you see a price point at all? Because that's the only thing I didn't see. I didn't see when it was.
I think it was like $30 or $40. I don't know. I can look that up.
Done. But no, you're jumping into your riff, bro.
Oh, well,
I got a mess to clean up behind me.
Well, I guess so. Well, if you're done with your riff, that was one of mine. The next riff that I had is actually they showed off
I got Aladdin.
The first 11 minutes of Blair Witch coming off of the other Blair Witch gameplay that was from Gamescom.
Right.
We watched that earlier. What'd you think about it? Because I'm more the horror fan, so everyone always expects whatever from me. So.
I'm not a big horror guy, mainly because it scares me, not because I don't like the genre. I think it didn't show us any more than what I originally saw. Like, the big thing that we were watching was 11 minutes, 20, whatever it was.
Just walking.
It was just more the same. Not to say the game doesn't look good. I just didn't see...
There's a lot of jank in it, like the dog turning.
Yeah, when he did the full pivot turn. I think it's got its potential. I don't think this new gameplay trailer at all
did anything
more than what the game originally did for me, which has me at like a C, B.
Same. I kind of feel it, and that's also too because I like even though I'm into horror games, I'm not into like just jump scare horror. and it might not be fair to define it as that. But also, like, I feel like Outlast is almost maybe kind of like the same thing. Like, it's all just based off of, like, seeing. And, I mean, Outlast is a different kind of game, though. But I know that it's like, a lot of that element. And that's not, like, really what I'm a fan of.
And they did kind of show that this camera is going to be a main part of it, right? You can see one thing. The camera's going to show you something else. And from what, I guess the only new thing that I'm taking away from this is that this guy has a past with something, right? Because even when he's on the radio, I understand that you're a brother, but
yeah, it's very like psychosocial, like what's going on with him and like his head. So
he's committed. He's a part of this more than what. It's not just some guy trying to be a good citizen going out there looking for something. He's got something to do with something.
Yeah,
because I was just like, dude, he runs into something. I'm like, dude, get the fuck out of there.
Actually,
what are you doing?
That comes out tomorrow. So who knows? Maybe that might be something.
Yeah, it comes out the third, and it's on the Game Pass.
Yeah. Oh, is it on the Game Pass?
Well, I thought Blair Witch was on the Game Pass.
If it's on the Game Pass, I'll play it, but I will not buy that game. I'll give you my pass review right now until further noted. Yeah. Maybe next week I'll have something different.
We'll play it by next week.
If it's on the Game Pass, I will for sure get it and play it. Even though I'm not a fan of it and I don't like the way it looks, I will get it just so we can talk about it next week.
Yeah, if that is kind of, now that you're saying that, it does look very janky for a game that comes out tomorrow. So that trailer didn't do it any favors if that's what it's kind of sticking with it for a game that launches tomorrow. But yeah, check to see if it is. I thought that's what it said.
Oh, you know what? I'm offline so we don't get texts and calls from everybody.
Oh, jeez Louise. My next riff real quick, guys, was I recently jumped into a game called Metro 2033. Andrew just beat Metro Exodus. That is a game that is based off a book, but the book is being adapted into a movie. So we just recently talked about this new Sonic movie. We talked about the new Mortal Kombat movie that's in development. So Metro 2033 is greenlit and is in development to be made into a movie. And I got to be honest with you, man.
I didn't see that. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't think there has been a movie like, or a video game movie that's been like Metro.
I can't think of like a post-apocalyptic movie that would even
compare
compare to like
Doom
Fallout.
Would be like a shootout, but I mean, this has its own. I mean, it's based off a book. It's got a lot of source material that it can derive from. I'm looking forward to it because the game is actually really fun. You had fun with it.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a cool movie. Just like I also kind of. Actually, for a good like standalone movie, I think Fallout would be like kind of a cool standalone movie. Not take a story from the game, but just create a story with that universe, especially with that like 40s or like that 50s, like 60s timeline. Even though Metro's something different, I think that would be pretty cool for like a standalone movie. I don't see why not, because there's nothing out there I feel that's that same post-apocalyptic vibe where it's more scavenging with these monsters. Maybe almost kind of like that movie.
With all kinds of badass
that movie Book of Eli with Denzel.
You know, I think it's on HBO, and I was.
It's on Netflix.
It was on Netflix, and I was throwing by the other day. I'm like, dude, I gotta watch something I've never watched before, and I chose something. I forget what I chose, but it wasn't Book of Eli, and it should have been.
Yeah, I didn't.
Oh no, I chose Rat Race.
I hope it was just for me. Yeah, I don't think Book of Eli is an amazing movie, but if it had kind of that same feel where it's like, it's not just the environment that's going to hurt you, it's all these other people, these crazy fanatics, the beliefs people can come up with, or who can rise to power, not rise to power.
The cool thing is it's all Russian based, right? This is all a book that was originally written in Russian. So I mean, if you even read the book, it's a translation. So if I'm not mistaken, that's where it all takes place. Travel through all that.
Yeah, that's where Metro Exodus takes place. But I mean, if they take stuff from that, I mean, that'd be cool, because again, in Exodus, like the first area you start with,
no spoilers, bro.
Religious fanatics.
That's a little cocksucker.
And so it's just the kind of people that can rise to power after something like that happens, and really kind of like get into that and explore that, I think would be cool.
Which are all on the Game Pass, so if you are looking to experiment with it and see what it's all about...
Dude, again, that Game Pass, I never would have played Metro without it.
You can play all 3 games on there. That's how I played the first one.
I'll stick with 3 and just move forward.
Hopefully there's a forward. Alright, what do you got? See, I tried to make a 4 joke, it didn't land.
Oh.
What do you got? What's next?
Final riff that I had would be to make sure you guys keep your eyes out tomorrow, because CD Projekt Red has announced that they're going to show off 15 new minutes of gameplay for Cyberpunk 2077, and if that's a game you're looking forward to, like myself, which I think absolutely looks great, then I'm actually waiting for that tomorrow. I'm almost a little bummed. Oh, we actually didn't mention, we're switching up the days that we do the show because of our schedule and stuff. Some new things. So today's actually a Thursday. It is not a Friday like we normally do our thing.
So the episode should have covered this, but...
Yeah, so it's not going to, and that's going to be why. But either way, you know, we'll talk about it next week if it's really worth talking about. Hopefully, it's not like fucking the Blair Witch 11 minutes of gameplay, which is him walking through a forest.
God, the moment that thing jumped out and he's like, well, that was different from the last one. I was just like, what the fuck are you still doing in there, dude? Get out, brother.
Hey, I will say this though, the sound in that game, like not even looking this, I was like, oh fuck, that scared me.
Oh man,
like,
I was working and Andrew was watching it. Well, he was watching it, I was listening, and something popped and it freaked out. So it's definitely got that scare factor. So
do you have another riff?
I got one last one.
I'm done.
I got one last one. The Mega Man Zero ZX collection.
Oh, you know, I saw that the other day, but I didn't read anything about it.
The most I gathered that is coming out in January. I believe it's exclusively on the PS4, so correct me if I'm wrong. But you're going to be getting Mega Man 0, 02, 03, 04, 0X, and the ZX Adventure, I believe, was the final one. Not a bad little package for something that's coming out, early next year. So
now, have you played any of these?
Okay, so when I was in college, I was in Flagstaff, we were playing it. I had two roommates, and Steve and Cameron. And we sat down and we knocked out Mega Man 1 to Mega Man X. I don't remember what the last X one we played. I do not necessarily remember these. I don't remember the zeros. So where does that derive
This
from?
is after the X
Okay,
series.
so where does that take place? Walk me through a little bit about that.
I'll say, well, I don't know too much. Well, actually, I think I played the first one of it because I had a Mega Man.
Were they Super Nintendo or
I had a Mega Man Zero, and it was actually for Game Boy.
Oh, Game Boy.
Yeah.
These are Game Boy events. Okay.
A couple of them were for Game Boy. So the Mega Man Zero took actually place way after Mega Man X does. Like Zero, from the one that I played, Mega Man is gone. He's known as the hero, and it's still X. It's not the original Mega Man. Some people even think that he's turned into this villain, but it doesn't turn out to be him. But he plays Zero.
Okay.
And so it offers almost kind of the same dynamic where you're using these powers and stuff, but you're also using that Z saber too, his sword that he uses. Yeah.
Slash,
and so you're getting up close and personal and doing all these different things. And there was like a lot of like weird kind of different things to it, especially with like his gameplay style. So I mean, either way, it'd be pretty cool. I actually have not had a chance to check out any of the information on this, but I did kind of see something about it. I forgot to look. And either way, I was like, I thought it's cool. And if anything, you know what? Those are games that were otherwise scattered apart and inaccessible, and now to be brought together on one thing that if it is only on PS4, I'm sure maybe would come to other stuff, especially since the Zero I played was a Game Boy game. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because we have the new Mega Man collections that are on like Xbox cross-platform, so it'd be odd if this one was just on the PS4, but even if it is, I can't see this thing being more than like $19.99 to get the pack. I
think that's how the other ones are. I think they're like $29 at the top.
Tops,
but you know what? I can deal with it.
Nice. And the riffs?
I'm done. Yeah, I'm done with mine.
All right, guys. Well, we are going to move into a little section we like to call Video Game Questions of the Week. And now these questions are currently submitted by you guys. So we appreciate you guys for checking us out on YouTube, checking us out on our Facebook page, and submitting these questions. We're just going to knock out a couple that we have this week. So we are going to start with Connor Malone.
Post Malone.
Personal fan favorite of the show. He asked, do you guys have a favorite sports game of all time? Probably very basic choice, but for me, FIFA World Cup 98 was always the pinnacle for me. Obviously not aged well today, but the gut feel of it was great. Andrew,
I can start.
Game? All right.
If I were to, I guess
Skate 3 doesn't count.
I would say skate. If we're counting modern sports, skate. But that was not going to be my original answer anyways. I absolutely loved, especially as a kid, Blitz. That was one of my favorite games.
Arcade, just smash them up. On arcade or 64?
At home on 64.
Okay.
I even had one at GameCube. Me and my brother used to play it all the time.
Fantastic.
We used to get into fights. Sorry.
Specificos.
We used to get into fights all the time too. Because we were, all right, you can't cheat. No tackling your receiver before he gets the ball, because you could just lay the fuck out of the receivers and the ball would just fall to the ground because there's no penalties. There's like no nothing. And we used to like look up the little codes online so we can do like the unlimited turbo and everything. Nice. And there's also was kind of a split with, there was another game that they I'm pretty sure it was the same creators, and this game was made by Midway, which is no longer around, another defunct studio. But it was called Slugfest, which is a baseball version of the same thing. I don't know if you ever got a chance to play it. But like the dude could literally be standing on base and you could like just fucking knock him out. Yeah. So those games were crazy, crazy fun. I mean, I enjoy playing Madden and stuff like that, but I just had a lot more fun playing these.
I'll probably maybe kind of mimic that. I'm not a traditional sports player kind of guy. I don't gravitate towards.
Do you see these arms? Do they look like they throw a ball?
Look at these things, baby. These are typing hands. I don't gravitate towards an NFL or an MLB or something like that. My all-time favorite sports game, which is in contention for being my favorite Nintendo game of all time, is Punch-Out. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Dude, or like a good fight night.
I can fucking smash and Punch-Out. And
I
can, dude. I've been.
I would like to see that. I've never seen it.
I almost been wanting to do a let's play with it, and I can cruise. I remember doing a run one time, and I one round KO'd, and I forget how far I got because I don't want to sound unbelievable, but it had to have been like Piston Honda all the way up to like the second time you do them, and it's just a game that when I get in the zone. Dude, I fucking just... But it's got to be like on a regular Nintendo controller. Like, I can do it on the Wii, would be my next best one. But that is a game where I fucking love. So, Punch-Out, hands down, is my favorite
I didn't even think of
game,
boxing.
And it's arguably my favorite Nintendo game, so...
I didn't even think of boxing.
So, thank you, Connor Malone, for that question. Because
yeah, no, that was actually a pretty good one, because it's not often that I think of sports, because it's kind of it's my back catalog of games, and, you know, like, I played Madden, but I'm not diehard for it.
Yeah, so... and I know there's guys out there like CN who plays like all the Maddens, all the FIFAs. And all
I mean, it probably makes sense because you're Ireland.
Here we go.
So does that count as European? FIFA's big over there.
FIFA's huge.
Yeah, so
huge. It's the biggest sport of all time. I
know that game sells more than the rest of those sports games. FIFA's like their biggest one, I think. But
dude, it's EA cash cow.
Never been a big football, soccer, whatever you want to call it, fan. Second question comes from Auburn Stein.
Ready the better.
We all have pretty extension... well, I'm just going to read it verbatim, what he wrote. So this is a quote. We all have pretty extensive video game backlogs. Who doesn't?
Right.
So what are some games in your backlogs that you need to play but have still been putting them off? I can name Craig's. They can be old or more recent. Right now, mine are Doom. I would highly recommend going and playing Doom because I just finished Doom and that was on my backlog. I was dreading it, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a great game. And Uncharted 2 and 3, all of which I never played the originals myself either. I did not play the original Doom. I dabbled in it. Well, I guess I'd played it. I'd never beaten it or put more than like 5 minutes into it. Do you want to start?
Yeah. My biggest backlog. So again, and I haven't talked about this in a while, so I'm very happy.
I hate talking about your backlog.
If you guys want to go check out the LastCallProductionz video game Power Hour, that was a personal kind of checklist that I took on to be. It's if you're not familiar with the Power Hour, go watch it. It'll explain it. I won't get into it now, but it's a series of 60 videos of 60 games. My goal is to beat every game on that list. I am behind. We just went over that list. I think I was behind maybe 6, 7, 8. So I'm hoping to knock that out by the end of the year. But the two biggest games on there that I've been putting off since January when I took this accomplishment on is Witcher 3 and Fallout 4. So
two long-ass games.
Two big fucking games. Although, and the third one was GTA 5, which I knocked out GTA 5 campaign early in the year. Had a blast with. So those would be the two ones I've single-handedly kept putting back to play something else because I don't want to jump into a 40, 50, 60-hour game. So those would be my two. Excellent question, Auburn Stein. Drew? Yeah. What do you got?
So for mine, I will actually say I've knocked out almost all of my backlog.
Like in Punch-Out.
For all the major games that I've wanted to play. The two that I would have to say because I don't own them because we didn't purchase them would be Final Fantasy 10 and 12. Because I personally love 10. It's in my top 5 favorite games of all time. And I love 12. But I just didn't have the time before.
I got it on PS4 if he wants to come play it.
No, only on the Xbox for me. I need those achievements. But I'm waiting for a good sale to get those. So those are the two that I don't own. As far as what I do own and is on my backlog, there is absolutely nothing because I finished the rest. Except for I keep having to make new ones. So my new one now that I'm considering backlog worthy would be Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
No, that doesn't take up enough mantle to warrant. No Devil May Cry 5? Can you get me one more beer?
I'm not dying to play it, though, so I'm not counting that as like a backlog game. It's a game I haven't beaten, sure, but am I dying to play Devil May Cry 5 when I've only ever played one and I'm kind of about the series? No.
You got it. You're hiding it. I just don't buy it. As soon as this video is done, I'm going to look at Andrew's games and see what he's got on there, because I know he's hammered for something. But excellent question, Auburn Stein. So let's move into our last question, guys, of the episode. And this comes from our old friend, Rince repeat. I like how it's not rinse and repeat. It's just rinse, repeat. So
Straight
he asked,
to the point.
Yeah, he asked, Borderlands 3 or Cyberpunk? Which one you guys are looking, or which one you guys are more looking forward to, and why? For me, as much as I love like a tabletop game like D&D, which Cyberpunk, if no one knew, is actually an original tabletop game based in that genre. Borderlands 3 is where I've been at. Beat 1, beat 2. It is one of the few games that I actively jump on and play with people. Because I like playing, as much as I love being online in a party, I like playing games single player, narratively, beat it, move on, and keep going. I don't like waiting for people. I don't like getting a group together every Friday to beat a game or whatever the occasion is.
Right.
Borderlands 3, I'll make the exception. I'll wait for Andrew or Gino or Robbie or whoever wants to jump on and play it. Sean Love, if you're watching, I'll play with you guys because that's the game I'm looking forward to.
I'm more looking forward to Cyberpunk. I think it looks a lot more interesting. It looks a lot more fun.
I will say it looks more interesting because it's something I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, exactly.
I know what Borderlands 3 is giving me, but I gotta finish it.
It was a game that wasn't on my radar, and then as soon as they showed it, I fell in love. I think it looks absolutely great. Just, kind of like Watch Dogs wasn't on my radar until they showed off Legion. I'm like, damn, that looks pretty good now. So I'm all in for that.
He does ask us a part 2 of that question. He goes, and for a Switch-related question, because we are giving away a Switch Lite, if you could choose a port to come to the Switch, which game would it be? I've been wanting to play Legend of Legaia, so I know Switch is getting all these kind of random ports. I thought I saw that they were getting a Grandia port, or they already do, because that's already a game I keep on standby. There's so many old PlayStation RPGs that I want to go back and play that I do not just want to break out the disc and the memory card and the controller and turn on the PS2 and play them. Legend of Legaia has always been a game I've wanted to go back and replay, so that would be a game. I'm not sure if they can, if that's legal, if they own it or to do it, but that would be a game I would like to see on the Switch because I would hands down play it tomorrow. Legend of Legaia. Vaughn.
See, I went different.
How so?
And it's something that I'm not sure if I would fully endorse, but behind the idea, I think it sounds good, and on paper, it sounds good. So, with Ori and the Blind Forest and Cuphead both coming to the Switch, which are Microsoft games,
another Xbox game
I would have said the Halo Master Chief Collection. Just imagine playing something like that on the go.
That's the holy grail, though.
With your friends.
You're going for the gusto, though. That's the holy grail of games.
Imagine that game on the go, playing with your friends, especially because that game's meant to be played, especially some of the other versions, with 4 people.
What if they started with like Spartan Assault?
Spartan Assault was one.
What if they started with something like that on the? Could you see the move gradually being the whole collection?
I could see it, but I mean, Phil Spencer. We didn't add it to the list because it was also last week's news, but we were covered by Games Club. Phil Spencer has come out and said that they don't. They're planning on buckling down now on their exclusives. They don't really plan on bringing any other big games to anything other outside than what they've currently already announced. So that kind of shuts down that rumor. But when these games were coming over, that was something that's been kind of talked about, and there's a rumor that it would have come to PlayStation 4 like a long time ago or whatever that may be. So I think that's a game that would be, because I mean, Halo is such an easy game to jump in and out of, and I feel like on the Switch, on the go, you can easily try to knock out a level depending on your difficulty, or day by day. I could be playing right here. You could be playing on the TV. We could all playing on TV together as we always do.
You could be playing it right now while we're on the cast, and I'll be talking, and he'll just be smashing out some Halo.
I'll sit here like I always do and don't contribute to the show.
But he's got those fantastic looks and that phenomenal hairline. So, guys, rinse, repeat. Thank you for the question. So, guys, we're going to get into the final segment where we are giving away a Nintendo Switch Lite. So how do you win it? You need to make sure that you are a subscriber. You need to make sure that you like the video. And you got to make sure that you comment in and say hashtag Switch Lite. And then just put the color of your choice so we know if you win what to get you. Now, you can get more entries by going to watch older videos. Every comment per video will launch you an entry. At the end of that, Andrew and I are going to tally them up.
Every video, though. I think it starts at like 12.
Every video that warrants an entry. So make sure you see it.
I think we've labeled them all.
We've labeled them all pretty correctly of where we're at. We're on not 8. So the next episode is the last one. Is your last entry.
Yeah, actually. So I think it does start at 12 then.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So we got one more, guys. So do this one. You've got one more. So make sure that you guys go there and you do that so you can win your Nintendo Switch Lite.
Signed by Craig Prowlis himself.
I'll sign it if you want me to. With these nuts. But
Sign the screen.
they actually, somebody, I forget who I was reading an interview with, they actually got up to play it, and they're saying it's very tight, it's very nice, the D-pad's perfect. It is the modern-day Game Boy, like I said 6 episodes back.
Even if it was terrible, a free console is a free console.
A free console is a free console. So guys, make sure you go back there, check the old episodes out, but make sure you subscribe, because if we draw your name and you're not subscribed, you're not winning.
Yeah,
so make sure you do that, guys. So, guys, we love answering your questions, so make sure you send more of them. So make sure you write to us at Gmail at LastCallProductionz@gmail.com. Make sure you submit them at Twitter at LastCallProductionz. Check out our Instagram page at LastCallProductionz. Check out our Facebook page at LastCallProductionz. And if you guys are interested in listening to an audio version only of this podcast, which you can take on the road with you anytime you want, check out Castbox at LastCallProductionz.
You know, funny story. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh,
I subscribed to the Castbox one, of course, as I should. And I didn't mess with the settings.
There's my one view a week.
Yeah, I just hit subscribe and let it go. And then I'm listening to music the other day, and I'm driving, and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to listen to that. I switch, and it just says audio 134, some random number. It's like, welcome to Last Call Production. It's great. And I didn't realize I didn't turn off the auto download thing, so I went through. I was like, what the fuck? And I had like 3 episodes downloaded.
Castbox is awesome. It's free downloads, guys. You can check out a bunch of other cool
I use it all the time. I absolutely love Castbox.
So, but keep in mind though, to enter your entry to win the Nintendo Lite or any of our contests that we do, YouTube is where it's at. So, guys, that is the end of this episode. I had a blast, Andrew. Anything you want to add before we end?
No.
Besides a few blank stares. So, guys, my name is Craig Prowlis from Andrew Montemayor. Until next time, guys. Cheers. Doesn't it make you feel more sympathy towards like Wile E. Coyote when he always gets the shaft in?
Yeah, he didn't do anything wrong. He's just trying to eat.
He's just a dog that walks wrecked.
Dude, what makes me super sad too is like, dude, I'll read stories about other people's like dogs or people's dogs dying or whatever, stuff like that. It gets me super fucking teary eyed.
You know what you should read is Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Fuck.
I hear that.
I mean, I still don't want to go watch shit like A Dog's Life or whatever those fucking.
Go watch Air Bud. That'll cheer you up.
I think I've seen the original. And I'm pretty sure in that movie, it's
What's the best live action dog movie? And you can't say Beethoven.
Homeward Bound.
Okay, good, because that is the answer. There's only one answer. So, whoa, hold on.
It's not Beethoven.
It's Milo and Otis. No. But Homeward Bound would be the contemporary.
I'll take Homeward Bound.
Okay. Have you ever watched Milo and Otis?
If we're talking the best live action, what's the best live action animal movie? So I'd have to say.
What do you mean? Does that change the question from what a Homeward Bound would be?
Yeah.
So what do you mean? What
any animal, live action.
Oh, okay. Because I said dog. You're saying of all time. Of all time.
Of just any animal. It's got to be a talking animal. It can't be like Kangaroo Jack.
You're gonna do something. It has to be a talking animal.
It has to be a talking animal. All the animals talk in these
Yeah,
movies.
you're gonna do something stupid like Dr. Doolittle. Yeah, but there's no
Dr.
Doolittle
Air Bud
their mouth moves versus like Homeward Bound where they just talk. When the other guys can hear it.
Well, I mean, okay, so as long as...
What's your answer? I want to hear your answers, and I'll base my answer on that.
Like Babe Pig in the City.
Oh, man. Can it be animated? No, you said live action.
Oh, why we didn't go Charlotte's Web? Yes. If it was animated, I would say Charlotte's Web.
Charlotte's Web would probably...
Well, that's why I said animated.
Babe Pig in the City. Yeah, no, that's not a bad one. Oh,
what's the
it's
movie?
More depressing, but did you ever watch Animal Farm?
Yeah, no, I've never seen it. I read the book. I really enjoyed the book.
I think it's George Orwell.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. George Orwell, yeah.
I think so. I don't know. It's been a while since I've been in senior English, but
who's the guy who ran Britain?
Which guy? King Henry VIII?
No, the one during World War II.
Winston Churchill.
Oh, okay.